welcome back to another episode of the Almost Made It podcast, proudly brought to you by Cultural Club, as always. This week we've got a different insight on the game, something a little bit different. ALeague referee, NPL referee, did we ever play together?
No, I don't think so.
I remember you reffing us.
Same club.
Yeah.
Played at the same club down at Brunswick.
Yeah,
Brunswick
that's right.
Zebras.
Yeah, that's right. It's been a while. But ladies and gentlemen, Adam Bavcar. How are you?
Thanks for having me, boys. Pleasure to be here.
It's been, I don't know. I reckon the last time, I was actually thinking about it in the car on the way here. I think the last time you reffed me, I don't know if you were in that team as well, it was like Paco under 21s and we were like 16 or something.
Yeah, I think so.
So
back in the
long ago.
VPL days.
Yeah, when it was
the under
VPL.
21s. Yeah.
How you been?
Jeez.
How
Yeah,
you been getting
good.
on?
Yeah, good.
Good.
Business as usual.
Yeah.
Yeah, still getting yelled at.
Yeah, we'll get into that actually
Yeah.
because I don't know how you do it. But you've got a game tonight
Yeah, that's
and
correct.
then A-League on Sunday.
On
Who
Sunday.
you got tonight?
So Altona Magic and Oakley Cannons tonight. Big Anzac Day clash.
Yeah. What are they on like the table at the moment? Because I was saying before, I've got no idea what's going on in the NPL these days. But
Yeah, Altona I think they haven't had the best of starts. They've changed over a fair few players from the previous year. So I think they're sitting just above the relegation zone.
Mhm.
And Oakley towards the top. They're competing for honours, as they do most years anyway.
yeah.
I suppose that's what makes it brilliant about our sport, having that relegation. Like every
Yeah,
game
exactly.
means something. Doesn't matter if it gets to the last couple of weeks in the season.
Yeah.
All the games mean something. So
Still get a good turnout at Paisley Park.
depends how they're going. I suppose that's like with every team, isn't it? Like the fans jump on the bandwagon when they're doing well. If they're not doing too well and struggling, they rather watch it on YouTube. So
And then on Sunday, you've got another A-League game.
Western United
Yeah.
and Sydney. They'll be fourth official for that one
Yeah.
on the Sunday.
What is that? I know obviously you're not in the action as much being a fourth official, but you still got to be on, yeah?
Yeah, exactly right. So I treat the fourth officials that I get like I'm refereeing the game because you never know when you're going to get called on to jump in. Like I've been caught a couple of times where the referee's like, "Well, not feeling too good. You might have to go for a warm-up." And you're like, "Oh dear." Like the last thing you expect is to then jump on and, referee the game from the halftime whistle. So you have to treat it as if you're refereeing and be in the zone, especially in front of the technical areas. I don't know, maybe you got some insight as players, like all like the crap tackles always happen in front of maybe it's the coaches like giving you a spray and saying like to leave a bit in extra, but always like you see around the world, the worst tackles are always in front of the technical areas for some reason.
And you always cop it too.
Oh,
no matter what happens, it's always there straight to
exactly
the
right. I'm standing right there in the middle between two coaches, so you can't
have to break some like scuffles up. And I mean, the coaches, because you're so close, they'd get straight into your face as well.
Exactly right. So, and I suppose over the years you build that resilience as well, and you come up with your little one-liners and your strategies. You have to be so quick because if the coaches or players come at you, you have to have something to say. Otherwise, if you just sit there like, they'll eat you alive.
What in your opinion, what's the best way to just diffuse a situation?
Usually agree with them.
Okay.
Like even though they might be
you're not really going to change your mind.
Exactly right. So it might be on the far side of the field and they'll be like, Adam, like how's that not a foul? I'm like, I probably agree with you. Like, probably is a foul.
Yeah.
I've got no idea if it is or isn't.
Yeah.
But then that just diffuses everything straight away. Instead of getting into that,
back and
he
forth.
said, she said kind of debate, it
Yeah.
just diffuses everything straight
You know,
away.
one thing I've always wondered, when the ref comes on, like, gives the cards on the bench, is that because the fourth official has heard something? Is that normally what happens?
More often than not, yeah.
So you're responsible for that, huh?
Yeah, basically. But then the coach will turn to me and be like, what did I get that for? I'm like, you heard you from 70 metres away what you said. And he's come over. It wasn't me. Just handball.
That's smart.
Yeah, exactly. So why reffing? Like, how did you even get into it?
I suppose it got to a stage, being a 15-year-old, the parents as well at home had a big deal to play where they said, you have to do something. You can't just be at home and study. You have to get a part-time job. And I thought, flipping burgers at Macca's, stacking shelves at Coles or Woolies, probably not for me.
Yeah.
All right, and you deal with customers yelling, you haven't put enough salt on their chips. So I was like, no, I'm not going to go with that. So I thought next best thing, probably the referee stay involved with the game and give me a different perspective, and that it could also help me as a player. It didn't. You know, all referees, if most, failed players. Like, you don't grow up wanting to be a referee. You always want to make it professional. Like, I would have loved to made it as a professional footballer.
Yeah.
Wasn't to be, obviously. So you do the next best thing, and I'm a referee. I had a couple of mates as well that did the course at the start, which helped me get involved with it as well. So,
Did you know, Bartlock, from the beginning, you didn't really have an idea that you wanted to take it this serious, did you? Did you just do it more for part-time?
exactly.
And then
right.
it sort of led to this, yeah?
100%. And like the cash as well, like as a 15-year-old kid, you do your 2 games on a Sunday morning, you're getting $80 or $100.
Yeah.
Like, it's just cash in the pocket. Like, it's brilliant. Then obviously as you progress through, and I was still playing at the same time as well. So I got to 18, 19 and they turned around and said, well, it's either you continue as a referee if you want to take it more seriously. Because I was playing Saturdays, but just refereeing on Sundays. But to get more exposure, you had to also referee on the Saturdays as well, where you had your senior games and whatnot.
Yeah.
And if you, like, through the progression, you have to go through the seniors to obviously get to where you want to get to. So I had to make that decision. It was a pretty easy decision for me. Like, I was down at Brunswick Zebras in the senior team, just having a kick with my mates and enjoying it. So it wasn't a difficult decision to make. I knew I wasn't going to get anywhere as a footballer. It was more just for the love of the game. So I played 1 or 2 years in senior football and thought, no, I'm going to give refereeing a crack and see how far it can take me.
How do you determine when you've had a good game as a ref? Like, how do you make that next step?
The clubs usually tell you straight after the game if you've had a
Good game or bad
great game. The team that wins, you're the best referee. The team that loses, you're absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
But also through experience as well, you know what things, even like during the game. An MPL, I suppose, is a bit more difficult in the fact that you haven't got VAR. So you make a decision and you're like, that's a bit sketchy. But you can't show that to the players. Like, you have to keep that straight face. And if they come up to you, be like, no, I've seen it like this. It is what it is. Whereas I suppose that's the beauty of VAR in the A-League, where you can correct your mistakes and not stew about them over the weekend or for the rest of the week. You find out pretty straight away within a matter of seconds if you got it right or wrong. So,
yeah. And also, I think it helped me as a player knowing you before you started reffing. Be honest, sometimes you protect certain players.
Not that you go out to protect.
But like, if someone's getting absolutely hammered and he's got something about him, because I know players professionally get upset.
Yeah, no.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
100%.
I'd say like Messi. People say, all right, refs protect him or whatever. But do you feel like sometimes you have to?
Well, there's actually been directives from like MPL Victoria and then also the A-Leagues to like protect those marquee players. Because at the end of the day, it's an entertainment business.
Yeah, exactly.
And the fans, exactly right. And the fans come to watch. Well, now you got at Western Sydney, you got one Mutter playing. So if you sense that, the teams are targeting him, and it's usually not one player. They're smart these days. They take turns. So it's like you go for the first one, you go for the second one, I'll go for the third one.
Yeah.
Right. So and as a referee, you're like, where do you go, right?
Yeah.
We go in with like a plan, obviously, before the game in terms of preparation, key players who are potentially going to get targeted. And you just try to prevent that from happening and being proactive with the teams and whatnot. So,
what does like preparation look like for you going into a game?
So we'll start usually we get our appointments on the Monday afternoon. So we get 2 weeks notice for when we're going to officiate. It will start with watching them on the weekend before in terms of how they set up formations, tactics. How are they a team that likes to play out from the back? Are they a team that likes to sit back and defend deep? And your position, like, it might not seem like much, but as referees, your positioning is like strongly influenced by how the teams play. So if they like to play out from the back, as a referee, you'll squeeze like the team and go a bit more further up the pitch. Whereas if they go long balls, and you'll probably back off a bit deeper just to look at that 9-on-5 challenges. So a lot of that has got to do with our positioning, set pieces. If teams have trends like blocking, like you boys would know, like in the change rooms, you're always trying to find a loophole in the laws where you can, and the margin for wins like these days is so fine. So teams will always look for that extra advantage that they can get to try to win the game.
It's so like you don't even think
Crazy,
about
like,
that.
I would never even think about positioning of a referee.
But you can tell. I think as a player, you can tell the better refs just because they're always in the right place at the right time. And obviously, they've done, like now we know you actually prepare for that. It's not a fluke.
No, and like the more experience you get as well, if you've had teams a few times, you know what to expect. Yeah. And over time, like there's been so many times where I've made incorrect decisions and you look back at the video, you're like, if only I was a meter to the left and I didn't have that player in front of me, I would have been able to see that a lot more clearer than what I did.
Yeah.
So, and unfortunately, it's that type of game as well and job where you learn through your mistakes. Yeah. And as hard as it is at the time, but it benefits you in the long run.
So interesting. Did you have, I guess, a moment in early on in your reffing career where you thought, I think I can probably take the next step and become a professional ref?
It was probably when I come through the National Youth League. So back in the day, they had the ALeague, then you had like the ALeague reserves or the youth sides, and they used to play interstate amongst each other. And it was like a full season, 18 rounds. Once I got to that level and you see the step up from like your MPL, at the time I was doing VPL under 21s, to the step up to the National Youth League, you're like, well, this is a different ball game. Just like their touches are crisper, their passes, they hit them more firmer. It's a lot more quicker. That's probably the step up that I thought, oh, like I could be doing something here. And then obviously through performances and whatnot, you get marked every game. So there's always eyes on you and you don't know who's watching you. You just have to make sure you're putting your best foot forward every game that you have.
How do you even prepare like mentally for a big game? You know, like I'm talking, say there's a lot of heat around the game, maybe some stuff in the media leading up. You know, like all eyes are on this game. Does that affect you at all?
Not necessarily. I think I thrive with those types of games, and they're all games that the referees and even players want to be part of. You want to be part of the biggest games whenever, and referees are no different. Like you pencil and you circle certain games in the fixture, like, oh, no, this will be a nice game to have. And I think it just like increases your ability and performance level. You just rise with the game. In terms of doing anything different, I try not to. Like I still prepare the exact same. I'll look at certain trends from each team, look at certain players, players that have played for former clubs as well. That's probably a bit underrated. Like if you played your former club, you probably want to leave a bit in. Exactly right. So I suppose there's a fair bit that goes into it, but in terms of changing anything to get up for the game, not really. But media, social media, I try to stay off.
Yeah.
I don't usually get too involved with the keyboard warriors out there if I've had a good or bad game. So,
do you find like games like that, say a derby or something, do you try and set the tone early? Is that what you try and do? Or are you more like let it flow a bit and try not to get involved? What's like your approach in those games?
I suppose I approach it like every other game, but I tried the first 10, 15, I let the players dictate what they want. Yeah. If they want to play football and the ball's on the ground, let's play. Let's get in. Let's let it go. If they start kicking the crap out of themselves, well, then that's when we'll raise our profile and we'll start to referee.
Yeah.
So usually that first 10, 15 is a good indication for what the rest of the game is going to be. If it's a kick fest, the next 80 minutes is going to probably be like that as well. So
you're saying you pencil in certain games. Say a derby's coming up. Do you, because I have no idea how this works, do you be in for that game? How do you get that game? Is it just by chance?
So essentially every competition has like an appointments manager. So MPL Victoria, they've got an appointments person. Usually the MPL manager is in charge of that, where they'll look to appoint referees on games. And it's not just putting a referee to a game essentially. Like if there's a bit of a high risk game, you want to make sure you've got your more experienced referees on those games. And the same with the A-League. Like you see the derbies and the big games, you haven't just got any referee doing those ones. It's the ones that have that experience of having those big games behind them and have done a fair bit. So
there you go. This is a good one. You know when you've just got like a split second to make a massive call, how do you get good at that? Is there something behind it, or it's just whatever you see, you think you're right and that's it?
So that's a really good question. I suppose it just comes with experience. And again, going back to positioning is huge.
Yeah.
Like you can be close to a situation, but if you haven't got the right angle, you could see it completely different.
True.
Whereas if you might be a bit further away, but you got that angle, again, it's going to look a different story as well. I try to take on a different person when I referee, and that sounds probably a bit weird, but you have to be someone else when you're out there. You can't, like my personality, I'm pretty reserved. I'm not really outspoken. I'm not the loudest voice in the room. But when you go onto the pitch, you have to be someone else that you're not. You have to put that facade on and that mask. So I just go to a different place when I'm in between those white lines, and players get that white line fever. I probably get it a bit, but in terms of going to a place where I can just make those snap second decisions and be able to call what I see. And again, the more times you get put into a position, you know what decision to make. And that's going back through watching your film and just being a student of the game, essentially. But in real life, like I can't even decide what I'm going to have for dinner tonight. Like it's funny how
back yourself in refereeing, basically.
Exactly right. And you just live with the consequences of the decision. Sometimes your gut feeling is the correct one, and then if you try to overthink it, you start to doubt yourself, and then that's when you get yourself caught into a bit of a pickle.
But I think as a player, I respect a referee more that way than even if he makes a mistake, but he's like made his decision. You get some, it's like they don't even know what's going on.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm like, oh, fair enough. He saw it that way, and that I think that's important. Like, you gain more respect from the players that way.
Yeah, I find that. Even like it's okay to admit your mistakes.
Yeah, exactly right. Like, you're human. Yeah, exactly.
100%.
Yeah.
Like I'm not probably the most technical referee. Like I make probably more mistakes than anyone else, but I feel it's that respect that I have with the players and that rapport that gets me out of a lot of situations. So if I make a mistake and the players are like, Adam, what the hell was that? Be like, all right, okay, I saw it like this. Trust me on the next one. I'll get the next one right. Yeah. More often than not, the players are like, yeah, fair enough. You still get some players that are like, what the hell are you doing? But if you ask me what page number 18 is in the laws of the game, I couldn't recite them back to you. I'll be honest. But the book is one of those like flexible laws of the game books. So I like to think the laws are flexible as well, and they've got a bit of give. Yeah. So and you just like the players will dictate a lot of the time what they want, and you try to provide a positive influence on the game and not try to hinder away from what the players are doing out there.
I think, like as players as well, I appreciate, and I remember when you were reffing us a few times, I feel like a good ref, you almost feel like whatever happens in the game, whether it's heated or not heated, you always feel like the ref's got control of it. Yeah. And to me, that's a sign of like I can feel free when I play. And, if anything does happen, you're the man. I feel like there's some refs that they let that stuff go and then you're sort of unsure.
I get that.
It's almost not like a safety thing, but it just lets you play the way you want to play. Exactly right. Yeah.
But I think also if you don't, when I say in a bad, like in a good way, you don't notice the ref in a way.
Yeah,
exactly. You like know that he's doing a good job because he's just officiating when he has to, and letting the game go. And I think that's when you know that it's a good referee.
Yeah, and it's a very fine line between like stepping in where you need to step in and letting the players play. And that comes, again, I'm going to say it, experience. Yeah, like the more situations you get put in, and I've had games in the past where I'm refereeing 2 games at once. So you've got the ball and then there's stuff happening behind your back. Yeah. Like players are getting hit behind, like my first State 5 game.
Yeah, I could imagine.
Right. I rocked up this is my first senior game and no assistant referees. So I've got club assistants, right, in their bibs. I'm like, all right, this will be interesting. The reserves game, I did the reserves and then backed up for the senior. So 2 90-minute games. Reserves game went fine, no issues. The senior game, and there was a mid-table game, like it was pretty straightforward. After 25 minutes, right, and the game's going smoothly up until then. Like I gave the game a chance to breathe. I'm like, all right, let's let this play. And then I hear, hey, ref, look behind you. I was like, the game's still going on. I look behind me, and there's a guy like clocked out, on the floor. And there's players running in, pushing and shoving. I'm like, far out, what's happening? I can't go to anyone. Like it's just me out there. Yeah. There's no assistant referees. So I put in the 2 players and be like, whatever's happened, we're drawing a line. It's not happening again. Yeah. No worries, ref. 10 minutes later, ref, another bloke. He's on the ground behind play. I'm like, far out. So the rest of the game, I'm focusing on the ball and then
Looking over your
like
shoulder,
constantly looking over my shoulder to see what's happening. And it just makes you a better referee. It just improves your resilience in a way.
Have you ever made, I know this is probably many because it's normal, but have you ever made like a big call that you sort of regret and then obviously the backlash that comes with it? How do you deal with it?
And it's funny, as referees, we make so many good decisions and correct decisions, but it's the ones that you get wrong are the ones that you remember.
Yeah.
And I remember one time, an NPL game, it was like 10 years ago, and I still remember it like it was yesterday. Like that's how much it's haunted me, this one.
Wow.
Big Greg derby, South Melbourne, Oakley, under the bright lights, Jack Edwards Reserve. And the first 15 minutes was fine. Like you expect it to be hot and tense and passionate game, of course. Like there's always going to be a bit in those games. And out of nothing, like balls just being floated into the box. And I from South Melbourne headed the ball into the back of the net. And I'm like, all right, goal. And we had my 2 assistant referees. The other assistant referee on that side's like, yep, that looks all good. And I get 11 players from Oakley Cannons running up to me saying, Adam, have you seen the handball? Have you seen the handball? He's punched it in. I was like, no, he didn't. He headed it. Like, what do you mean he's punched it in? And like you get that smell as a referee, right? And not always, but players will tell you if something's off.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, I'll double check with my assistant. So I went over to the assistant referee and said, they're saying a handball. Have you seen a handball? He goes, no, he's headed the ball. I'm like, all right, we're giving the goal. You then look back and something went into me when I went over to the assistant referee. I'm like, do I disallow it just on feel? Like it was a strong feeling, right? Even the gut was like, something's not right. Anyways, I've gone against my gut. I've awarded the goal, right? Looking back at the video, right, there's a camera right behind the goal. I forget what the player's name was from South Melbourne, South American boy, I think Brazilian. I think it was a Brazilian, one of their visas. As balls come in and his hand of God punched the ball into the back of the net, right? I don't know if it's a South American thing, Married, or it has to be. It has to be. They get brought up. And he's literally punched the ball into the back of the net. And like from my angle, my position, right,
angles,
it looked like it was his head, right? But then on the reverse side, he's had his hand and he's punched the ball. And I don't know, as a referee should say, thankfully, end up losing the game 4-1. Right. And so it wasn't a talking point. But at that game, and as a referee, you're like, subtly doing like these ones, right? Because you don't want to be, the last thing you want to be is the talking point, right? Especially a big game like that and a big incident like that happening. So it was one that I've learned from, and thankfully there wasn't any backlash from it.
That could have been bad.
It could have been. It could have been. And unfortunately, as referees, we usually learn those lessons when there is a big backlash.
Yeah.
Okay, but I was lucky that the game went the way it did and it didn't end up being a big talking point. Everyone forgot about it. I still remember it though.
I could imagine. What about the fans? Do you hear any of that?
It becomes white noise.
Yeah.
Like you're in that zone and you're in that element, even as players, like when you're just fixated on the game, it just becomes a blur to you.
Yeah.
Obviously, when you're walking off into the tunnel and you've had a fiery game, obviously you hear like the spectators yelling and whatnot at you. I remember one game, like, so I'm a school teacher, and at this club, a few of the students also play for the junior team, right? So they go to the senior team as always and support the seniors. And you hear these like little like prepubescent voices yelling like, Bavcar, you're crap, you're this and that. I'll leave out the profanities, but you're this and that, you're this and that. And I just like made a headway straight for the tunnel. I'm like, I'm not even making eye contact here. I'm just walking straight off.
That's what they want.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want a reaction.
No.
I actually want to ask you, from a referee's point of view, what are your thoughts on VAR? Are you pro or against it?
I'm more pro than being against. Only reason, like I said earlier, you get to fix your error then and there.
Yeah.
So post-game, it isn't a talking point. Whether you've missed a clear handball, a penalty, there's been an offside infringement in the lead up to a goal, it gets fixed then and there. And you don't have to stew over the weekend being like, oh, if I had my time again, I'd do this. you get that opportunity there at the screen. Like, of course, it's not as smooth as that, and we can do things better in terms of making the time sped up a bit more.
Yeah.
That we spend at the screen and just speeding up the process. And I think that will come with time as well. But the directive from this year has been all about trying not to re-referee the game.
Yeah.
And if there is maybe like a technical error, right, that we won't get involved with that as a VAR. Like our bar is a lot higher now, especially with that grey. And football is opinionated. It's all about interpretations. So we're probably leaning more away from those types of situations and getting involved and just leaving it for like the clear errors. And I feel this season's been a big step forward. Like I don't think there's been as many reviews as what there has been in the past, and you're just letting the referees do their job, which is what it should be at the end of the day as well.
In Europe, I've sort of noticed that as well. Like it's not as often.
And when it comes in, it's got an impact instead of always waiting for VAR. Like as a football fan, like as well, you're watching the Premier League. Like I get frustrated as well as being a football fan. Like we all are. But I think over time, with the more experience we get over here, like that speed will also increase in the process, and it already has. I feel this season in the ALeague, it's been used like very well on many of the occasions. So
I think it's fantastic for that. Yeah. But as a player, do you think it's taken away the beauty a little bit? Like that grey area, me personally,
the emotion of a goal.
Yeah, like
you don't know where to celebrate.
Yeah. Or like being a little bit shifty, bending the rules a little bit. I feel like it's gotten rid of that. Do you feel like it's impacted that side of the game a bit?
Yeah, definitely. I feel some of the teams probably have been around the world have been negatively affected by VAR, where they could get away with things previously where now they can't. But in terms of like taking away from the spectacle, I get it. Like as a player, you've celebrated and you're like, was I offside? Was I offside? Like was I a toe offside? Was I a foot offside? So I do get it from that point of view. But I suppose that's football expectations. Like you're not going to expect someone being offside scoring a goal or handling the ball. Like if I had VAR for that game, like no dramas, exactly, no problems at all.
Yeah. What's been your biggest challenge so far as a referee?
I suppose on field is more about just building that rapport with the players, especially early days, whether it's in the A-Leagues or in the NPL, right? You're coming into senior football, like my first NPL game, I think I was 20, 21, and you're trying to speak to ex-A-League players that have come down, ex-pros. You're speaking to these players that have been in the NPL for 10, 15 years, and they're supposed to respect your decisions when you make one. So I think that's the biggest one, earning their trust and gaining their respect. And then once you've got that, then the world's your oyster. Like you can referee as free as you want. But I think like their acceptance in a way goes a long way to how you perform. And at the end of the day, as a referee, you want to get through a game without any dramas. And the big driver of that are the players. And you want the players to be positive on the field. And if they've got that trust in you, you'll have better outcomes in the game compared to if like you've all had that feeling like you've seen a referee rock up and you're like,
not him again.
Like not him again, right? So like it's already a negative experience for the player. So then out on the park, you're going to have that same mindset with this referee. Whereas I try to, when they see me come to the game, I try to make it a positive experience for the players as well, so that they enter the field with that positive mindset already. Off field, it's probably juggling, like your family life. So now I've got a 1-year-old at home, got a wife, so juggling that, juggling work, juggling refereeing.
A lot.
Like, and if you have to travel internationally or interstate over the weekend or for weeks on time, that can be hard on work and the family as well. So just finding that balance, trying to juggle all those balls in the air at the one time can be difficult at times. But yeah, it's all about balance and trying to make time for everything.
What's something most people, we'll say players too, don't understand about being a ref? And they just wouldn't unless you were a ref.
I suppose decisions. Like, it might be easy from over the fence like we were saying before, you're having got who was it, the AFL umpires or
No, the player, but
it was an AFL player.
I was leaving the refs alone.
You're leaving. And like on the other side of the fence, like it's so easy. Like you see something so clear, and you're like, "That's a free kick," or "That's a throw in." Like, but when you're in the middle making those decisions, I remember my first game, like tying up my shoelaces, like my hands were shaking, right?
Yeah.
And like it just happens so quick, and if you blink, you'll miss it. So I think just making even the most simplest of decisions, I think is probably the most difficult thing about being a referee. And then on top of that, you have to be positioned well. You have to be fit. You have to manage the players. So again, like there's a lot of aspects into refereeing that's not just decision making.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other aspects around it.
Do you like build yourself into a game? Like I know as a player, like, you know, you want to always, personally, you know, you make sure your first, 3-4 touches are good. You just sort of build your confidence into it. Is it the same thing for reffing?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I suppose that, and this is one thing I say to my team when I go out there before the game is let's try to get the first like 2-3 decisions correct just to find our feet in the game, whether that's a throw-in, a goal kick, a corner kick, getting the first foul, getting the first card of the game. You just build little goals as you go and you break up the game into minute blocks. So the first 15, all right, let's make sure we're on top of everything before we go to the next part. But sometimes you don't get that luxury. Like I had a game earlier this season in the ALeague where my head was probably still in the change rooms, right? In the first 30 seconds, a player already on a yellow card goes in for another reckless tackle, right? And from my angle, whether I didn't see it properly, I just thought it was just a free kick. But you look at the replayer and it's a pretty bad tackle, right? And it's the second yellow. So you don't always get that luxury to build yourself in. Sometimes you're called in, like I had a game last season where I gave a red card after 10 seconds.
10 seconds?
Like last man tackle, like tripped him running in on goal. And as a referee, the last thing you expect is to make a big decision like that.
Quickly, yeah.
So I suppose I've learned as soon as you blow that whistle, you have to be on. Yeah. You have to be on. Anything can happen.
Do you have any, I guess, we'll say stories without naming names or teams? I guess from the change room into the tunnel, anything that got heated before a game?
Probably not so much before the game, but definitely halftime. Okay. Coming back in the tunnel, like there's been a fair few, and it's been more MPL, okay, rather than the ALeague that I've experienced, where like adrenaline's high. Players have played for every other team in the league, right? So they're going to have history with teams, with other players, right? There's always something, right? The football world's so small. There's been quite a few games where even coaches managing against their former teams, they're all coming off at the same time. They look happy. It's all good. And then as soon as they get into the tunnel with like the wire fence, it just kicks off. Yeah. Like players are getting thrown into walls, there's punches thrown. And as a referee, like I'm just walking in like,
what do you do?
What do you do? Exactly.
Like, you're not like a security guard. Like,
I know.
What are you meant to do?
Yeah, so I suppose it comes back to management as well. Like, unless it's something absolutely egregious, you probably just let the players have their time, have their vents, go into your rooms, okay, cool off for 15 minutes.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Is there, because I know sometimes, like when I play, there's always a bit of banter on the pitch.
Oh,
right?
Of course.
You always hear some player said something to someone else. Sometimes you laugh, sometimes there's a reaction. Is there something that like sticks with you that someone said that was just, you had to laugh?
Not so much from player to player, but I remember one time I was at a club, and as referees, you've heard everything that you've been called under the sun, right? You get used to it, right? It is what it is. There was a throw-in near the dugouts, and there were like a few away fans like behind the away team dugout. And I heard like, "Ref, you look like a giraffe." And I was like, that actually made me look up at the bloke. And I just smiled. I'm like, actually, that's a good one. I haven't heard that one before. Like that's a new one to add to the list. Yeah, exactly. It's different. You're a giraffe. So that's probably one that sticks out to me. In terms of like banter with the players, like unless it then filters like onto the park as part of the like their behaviour in terms of putting in those nasty tackles and whatnot, you try to let the players have a bit. If it gets to a certain point, then that's when I'll probably intervene. Like, all right, okay, we've had our fun. Let's wind it in now. Let's just actually play football and get on with it.
Is there one player, like let's say in the ALeague, that you not have a hard time with, but you're always like, he's always trying to get away with things. And is there one that, like, if you can name him? I don't know.
I suppose one when I was coming through was Bess.
Oh, yeah, it makes
Bess
sense.
Uprisher.
Yeah,
And like, it's not that he'd try to get away with things, but he was passionate, right? And and like as a football fan, like you love those players when they're on your team, right? When you're supporting against them, you hate those types of players, right? But I always found him enjoyable to referee and always a good challenge.
Yeah.
And as referees, you tend to pick your battles with players, right? There are some players that you get on well with and you're like, yep, like they'll eat out of your hand. You'll talk to them and you'll get that relationship back with them. There's other players where you just don't poke the bear, right? You just leave them alone.
Yeah.
And that's one battle that I knew that I'd never win.
Yeah.
Okay, it was Best. Like another one is even Luke Braddon. Like he's another one where like he'll just like constantly be in your ear all the time and you just leave them. Like you don't try to win that battle because you never will.
Yeah,
so you have to be smart as well as a referee. And that's like everyday life as well. Like there's people that that you get on well with and there's other people that, you just leave them alone. And same with teaching. Like every student's different. Yeah. They learn different and they got different personalities. And I think a lot of my teaching, what I've learnt, I've brought into refereeing and vice versa. I've brought a lot of things I've learnt with refereeing into the classroom in terms of managing how the class goes. So I'd say those two are probably two challenges that I look forward to, even in the NPL space. Like you got a few managers that come to mind that's always try to push the envelope a bit too far, but it's what makes the game what it is. And it's all about the challenge that comes with it.
You don't even think about that. Like you're managing so many different personalities on the pitch. Like we talk about it when we have a coach on or something. Obviously, you're trying to manage the change room, but you're trying to manage both teams.
And you don't really have an allegiance, alliance to any of them. You're just there in the middle.
Exactly.
And I suppose their last impression of you is their first one when they see you again. Yeah. So if you've had a really bad game, or like you might have had a good game, but decisions went against that team, that's what they're going to remember you for. When the next time you have them, like, oh, it's you again. I remember how last week went. You're like, exactly right. Hang on, I've forgotten about that. Like, what's the matter? Yeah. I suppose you can't manage every player the same. Exactly right. You have to. They're all, like you said, they're all different personalities, and they're going to respond differently. Some players like an arm around over the shoulder, right? If they've done something wrong. Other players you have to give a bit of a bollocking to. Yeah. And there's other players that just don't want to talk to you. They just want. They're like, I just want to play football. Like I just want to concentrate. Like, all right, no dramas. Like I'll leave you alone. No problems at all. Yeah.
Has there ever been like a big situation in a game where no fault of your own, but it's just gone over the top? You can't control it anymore and you thought, what the hell? Ugh.
Yeah, I remember it was a place that you'd least expect it to happen. It was at one of these, do you know, back in the day, like the AIS had these institute challenges where the best state academies would all come together in Canberra and play off against it. All the players, professional, they don't want to, deter their image in front of like the scouts watching. And I had a game, I think it was between WA and SA, right? And again, it always happens. The first 30 minutes, no problems, all right? They're playing football, playing out from the back, 4-3-3, the national curriculum, blah, blah. And I think a player got his shirt pulled by another player, right? It was just one of those non-football plays, and I was coming in with the yellow card. And the players turned around and just hooked, like connected with a full punch to this player's face, right? And it's just kicked off. And I was like, wow, like where has this come from? Right. It just, and then the player like was trying to be calmed down by his team. His bench is emptied. Everyone's on the field trying to calm down players. And I showed the player the red card. And then the player that got punched, I had to go up to him and give him a yellow. He's like, I've just been punched in the face. Why am I getting a yellow card for? I'm like, unfortunately for the first tackle, exactly. Like everyone's like, I'm like, I get what he did was crap. Yeah. But unfortunately, you pulling his shirt, I had to also do something with him. But that was probably something that's come out of it. I'm like, wow.
You would have been in shock. Like, this is the last thing you expect.
Exactly. Like under 14s football as well. Like, it's not even senior football. It's like under 14s, under 15s, like just kids having a kick. And suddenly another kid clocks another kid. You're like, far out.
That's nuts.
We're on.
What's the end goal for you? Adam, like, where do you see yourself refereeing in, I don't know, 5 years?
I suppose when I first started, like my end goal was the A-League, like to become an A-League referee. But then as you progress and you see like different doors opening, like refereeing internationally, like in the future is hopefully a pathway that I can also take. I'm going to take it as far as it goes.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to limit myself to certain things. Like if the opportunities have been there for other referees and you just think, why not me as well? So I think refereeing internationally one day, had a bit of an experience over in the UK with an exchange for a couple of weeks with the Premier League referees, which was pretty cool.
That's cool.
So hopefully, one day in the next few years, internationally, there'll be a nice gig.
Tell us a bit more about that. What was that like? What was the whole?
Yeah, so
thing about it?
essentially every year, I'm not sure if it's run since COVID times, but 2 referees that were looking to get onto the Premier League would come over to Australian referee, whether it's a couple of A-League games or referee some NPL games, and then a couple of referees from Australia that were looking to crack onto the A-League were on the cusp would get sent over to the UK for 2 weeks and would referee the under-23s. So like their Premier League academies or refereeing in the Premier League stadiums. We also were fortunate. There was the International Cup. So like it was similar like to a Champions League type format where the under-19s teams would come together.
Yeah.
So I had a game. It was Valencia versus Wolfsburg, the 2 teams that didn't speak any English. And again, that was another barrier. Like you have to also make decisions but communicate without, speaking a lot of English, a lot of words.
How did you go?
The players were really good. Like they got on with it. They very simple. Like you have to speak very simplified, slower.
Yeah.
We can't speak as quick as what we do. All right. And English is already a hard language enough for someone to pick up, especially for someone from overseas. So using body language as well, like stop, cutting the grass no more.
Yeah.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. You try to.
Yeah.
I try to learn how to speak Spanish and German, just some simple words.
Yeah.
Like counting to 10 when I'm stepping out the wall.
Yeah.
Like the players were having a laugh at me, but I was trying my best. Like they could see that I was trying. I was trying something.
Yeah.
Even going over to Tahiti, I did a OFC, World Cup qualifiers for the under 16s or 17s.
Oh, yeah.
So the teams would qualify for this year's World Cup in Qatar.
Mm-hmm.
And a few nations like Tahiti, New Caledonia was French speaking. So even learning a few words of French as well went a long way. But that experience going back to the exchange was just giving an insight into what it was like to be a professional referee, sitting in on their debriefs. Like they'd get together every 2 weeks, I think it was, and they'd go through trends in the game, what tactics teams are employing, how they can get around them and be more proactive during their games. So like that was something I really enjoyed as well. Refereeing Liverpool and Wolverhampton, the under-23s.
Jeez, that would be
There was a few players that came down like Rian Brewster, Curtis Jones.
Yeah.
So that was a bit of a buzz as well, which is pretty good.
Decent crowd?
Not really. You expect that I pumped it up so much, didn't I?
Was that at Anfield?
No, so it was at their training. It was,
Yeah.
I think, Kirby, I think it was called, or at Melwood.
Yeah.
But I did get to referee at Hull City Stadium, the KC Stadium.
That's cool.
But it's a stadium with 50 people in it, and it's huge. It's just completely empty. But they were good experiences.
Do you find the players are different?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, quality is one thing, but even just mentality?
Yeah, I suppose they live and breathe it.
Mm.
Like in those academies as well, they're essentially full-time footballers at that age. Just the speed of the game so much quicker. Like compared to the A-League, like those 23 games, like we had Everton against Derby County, which was like 1 versus 2 or 1 versus 3. And the way those players were playing the ball was just a different class. Like you could just tell they're cut from a different cloth, some of these boys. So the game, of course, was a lot more quicker than what we usually have here. You could just tell it's a different ball game.
Adapt differently as a ref to that?
Yeah, of course. Like even positioning, like you wouldn't be so close to play. You'd give the players a bit more space and you try to anticipate that next ball.
Yeah.
where it's a bit more easier to read because you can, if you've got like, a bit of football IQ.
Yeah, you know where sort of that next ball's going to go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The players usually off the ball will make a run like out wide. So then you'll already start running when that wide player's running before the ball's kicked.
Yeah.
So reading the play was a bit easier, but definitely you had to try to keep up with them.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like you've actually made me think more about how a ref looks at the game. Because I'd never ever think like that. That you're trying to read where the ball's going. I just think you stand in the middle and just like point direction.
Well, exactly right. Like you wouldn't think.
You never think about it,
You wouldn't think otherwise.
It's crazy.
Like, and it's sometimes you get caught up like watching these players play. Like I've refereed like Wes Brown, Luis Garcia when they came over for a Legends game, Luis Saha, like from the Man United days, Didi Hamann. And you just can't help but even one mutter today, like just watch when he's on the ball and just see like just how he moves and his touch. Like
you're right there too.
Exactly right. You got the best seat in the house. You're right there with him like a couple of meters away.
Yeah.
So it can be hard just to sometimes get distracted and you're like, oh, hang on a sec. Where is he actually looking? You try to anticipate and look ahead and scan. I suppose like a midfield player. Like you try to scan and look who's around you. It's the same as refereeing. You always try to look for that next pass and try to position yourself so if something happens, you're proactive and you can be there when it does happen.
I'm going to notice all these things
literally.
when I'm playing. I'm going to look at the ref and
I'm sorry, I understand now. You should have been over there.
You won't enjoy another football game again. Like when I watch football now, I can't enjoy a game.
You watch a ref?
I'm just watching the ref. Like just watching the ref, what he does in terms of his positioning, in terms of decisions, in terms of how he manages players, his body language. It's hard like just to watch the players now. Like I always still have to focus on the referee. So if you can avoid it.
Yeah.
Because you get stuck, you'll get stuck. You won't enjoy another game.
Do you have a ref you sort of look up to?
Yeah, there's been a few, especially coming through the ALeague. So looking at the older referees, like you had your Chris Beath, who has obviously been to World Cups, Ben Williams, your Strebre Delovskis, Peter Greens.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're your household names. Jared Gillett, when he was running around in the A-Leagues, now is in the Premier League. You obviously got your referees that you looked up to previously, Mark Shield, and that you try to pinch a couple of things that you see. And fortunately, I've been able to work with a couple of them. So listening to how they speak with the players, watching how they go about their business has been invaluable, really. And I find a trade is always pinched, not taught. So you can learn about everything on a whiteboard and read a book, but just looking and just seeing different referees, even from overseas. Like you got your referees refereeing Champions League or Premier League games. Like it's hard not to pinch things that they do and try. And you might not work for you. Like I've incorporated things into my game, whether it's seeing how referee positions themselves, and you're like, you know what? No, that didn't work for me. That game, I'll go back to the drawing board and I'll try to find something that works for me. And eventually, after many years, you'll mold yourself into a referee with your own personality, your own style that works for you and works for the game.
Do you think referees get enough recognition?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I don't think so. Yeah. I feel more should be done in terms of like the media landscape as well. I know over in the UK, Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville, held a flag and did some offside drills and VAR drills with the pros over in England. Even doing something like that with some commentators here in Australia, just putting them into a bit of a bubble or a scenario where they can be a referee for half a game of football or whatever it is, just to
see your point of view.
Yeah, I suppose. Like, and right, like in terms of like media, like of course we're protected, like in terms of just being integral to what the game is and having that integrity. I think, just shining a light on what we do and how difficult it can be for referees, I think will go a long way in terms of then getting that recognition for the job that we do. Like, because most of the times we're correct with our decisions. Might not please both teams, which it never does. But there's also times where, I think a bit of light has to be shone on, like, how we came to that decision, and even having weekly talking points or whatever it is, if there's controversial decisions, just to talk about them and let the media know what's happening, I think will provide.
Do you think, like after a game, how a coach, gets interviewed, do you think the refs should like get interviewed on their performance or like being able to explain themselves? instead of just being like, oh, I made a decision and everyone's just talking about it? What do you think that would help or not? It'd make it worse. I've always wondered.
Yeah, yes and no.
Yeah.
I suppose to a point, like, what do you want the referee to say? Like, if there's a clear penalty that he's missed a handball, you just want him to come on and say,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I got it wrong.
Yeah.
Like, 'cause I think they did it briefly. I think there was a referee, I think Chris Beath did it.
He did it.
After 1 or 2 games in the A-League where they interviewed him after the game and went through decisions.
Yeah.
And he basically said for like a couple of decisions, I have to be better. I got it wrong. I'll review it.
Yeah.
So, like, it's like a player
It's
like
sort of
making
like
a mistake or a goalkeeper that lets a ball through their legs.
Yeah.
Like, I know Onana's been involved in a couple of controversies recently. Like, do you want him to come on and just say, I just have to be better. I'm sorry. I'll catch it next time. So I get the background with it, like being able to explain. But sometimes those decisions are just black and white, and the referee's just got them wrong on the day.
No, that's fair enough.
Yeah. I think just sitting down with you now, and obviously you having explained the thinking, the preparation, everything involved with being a referee is already, I guess, I have a lot more respect for referees just in the half an hour now we've been talking. I think it's so important. Like, they're such an integral part of the game. You are. And I feel like there has to be a lot more recognition. Because I think once people understand what being a referee actually entails, I think players will sort of start to see it a little bit differently.
But you can acknowledge it from the player's point of view as well.
Yeah.
Like, you're not expected to know, what goes on behind the scenes. And as a referee, like, you might think, oh, this referee just gets their game, rocks up on a Saturday and goes home. Like, whatever happens on the Saturday, it is what it is. He forgets about it. But, referees, if they make an incorrect decision or if they have a poor game, like, that stays with us for like until our next game,
just
until
like
we get that.
Players.
100%. So, like, you stew on it just as what the players who coaches, if they make an incorrect tactical decision or a substitution during the game, like, they'll stew on it as well. Referees are no different.
Yeah.
Like, we do our prep before the game. We train for the game. We do our reviews. So that's the only way you're going to get better, like, just to be a student of the game and just invest that time in it.
I guess this goes into my next and last question. If there's someone listening that wanted to become a referee, was looking to become a referee, maybe someone younger, would you have a piece of advice for them to help them on their journey?
I suppose just to be a sponge. Like, you get told so many things as a referee, right? Whether it's online, whether it's from your referee coach, which is from your family. I suppose just having that inner circle and making sure that inner circle's strong for you and to focus on the important things. So if you get someone over the fence after a couple of beers saying you've done an awful job, probably don't listen to that and listen to the ones that matter. Like, my family, my parents, my brother, they're probably my biggest critics. After watching a game on TV, or they'll come and watch me, they're like, you had a bit of a minger that one. Like, you had a bit of a mare. Like, you have to.
At least they're honest.
Yeah, exactly. They're straight up, and you accept it. You're like, I have to be better. I'll take that on board. But getting involved, like, as a 15-year-old, where I was shy, I was reserved, I was in my shell a lot. It teaches you life skills that probably, like I said, flipping burgers or stacking shelves doesn't teach you. Like, as a 15-year-old, going up to someone that's double your age, triple your age, and being the boss of them and telling them what you expect and how you want the game to go. It just teaches you, like, that communication side, managing different personalities, and you're your own boss at the end of the day. Like, you don't report to anyone. Like, at the end of the day, your decisions are the final decisions on the game day. So I feel like as a young kid, like, it's given me a lot of resilience, and you go through a lot. Like, in terms of, like, your first few senior games, like in the state leagues, that's where you learn how to referee.
Yeah.
You get all these ex-pros coming down, and as an 18-year-old, you're like, geez, like, this is tough. And you have to try to manage, you have to grow up quick, right? So it teaches that resilience and just that ability to keep at it. And I know the first couple of years are hard, but if you can stick out the first couple, then it gets a lot more easier after that.
It's amazing. Any final thoughts from you, man?
You've opened my eyes a lot.
I was about to say. It's just such a different perspective, one that we don't think about enough, to be honest. Like you said, we rock up on game day, just hope for the best. Like, the referee's doing their job and that's it, but you don't think anything past that.
Even if you go to the referee, like before your next game, ref, nice to see you again. How you going?
Goes a long
You know,
way.
glad to, like, we're human as well.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you so much for coming on, man.
Nah,
It's
pleasure
been,
to be here, boys. Thank you
a
very
long
much.
time coming. We finally found a time for us to get it done. So we appreciate it. Thank you for the insight. And all the best for the future as well.
I appreciate it,
Hopefully
boys.
see you reffing a World Cup or Champions League final soon.
More chance of me landing on the moon, maybe, but
Nah,
maybe,
man, come on,
maybe one day. We'll see. Maybe one day.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Almost Made It podcast. And make sure you're following, subscribed, liked, and all the rest of the things. We'll see you next episode.